There were groundbreaking sales this week with Rod Stewart's Lamborghini Countach, a Ferrari Daytona, and a BMW E36 M3 from Europe that we didn't get in the US, and there was a whole bunch more. Join me while we take a look at all of them. We are covered up with supercars today, from rare Mercedes, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, everything in between, and then we have a few bargains that came along as well, and we're going to cover all of that. We're going to jump into the auctions and we'll cover the trends right after we get finished with the auctions today. All right, we're going to jump right into cars and bids and take a look at this 2011 Mitsubishi EVO X GSR. So this had the 5-speed manual transmission in it. It also had a few upgrades on it, which included a E85 fuel upgrade kit, as well as an upgraded clutch, which usually means it's not as supple as stock and a little bit harder to engage and stiffer. Also had aftermarket suspension on it. So it was probably pretty set up. Looks pretty good. I really like the ruby metallic red paint. That looked fantastic, and you can clearly see in the underside pictures that it spent a little bit of time in the north. All right, we're going to jump into a little bit newer car, and this 2023 Toyota GR Corolla. If you're a little bit familiar with these cars, you know that they were kind of hard to come by originally, and the dealers were charging excessive ADMs on them. There was even a Car and Driver article, I believe, which talked about the overpriced nature of these cars, and the dealers were charging too much, and people were trying to flip them onto the car auction sites. And what happened was people weren't bidding on them. They didn't want to pay that much for it, which I think it was like 25 over or more. So they didn't sell, and so the flippers got stuck, and it was kind of a little bit of inside humor in the auction market. Anyhow, this one sold for 44. You can see from the invoice on the MSRP that it was MSRP, it was around 41, 42. And so this sold just a little bit over MSRP, and it had 30 miles on it. If you are interested in this and you think you might want one, there's another one up on Cars and Bids already. All right, now we're going to hop into a Ford GT. Now this is one of those cars that I'm profiling which didn't actually sell. It got bid up to 705 and it did not sell at that point. So this is an interesting one. The reason why I'm talking about it is because there were so many of them that went up for auction either at Barrett-Jackson or over on Bring a Trailer, and they were bringing 1.2 consistently with the buyer's fees. This one only went to 705, so why? The answer to that, I think, is that it had 10,000 miles on it. Most of those were sub 100 mile or close to it, 200-300 mile cars. This one had 10,000 miles on it. So this car was a discount for $500,000 off of what those were going for 10,000 miles. That's $50 a mile. That's pretty steep in my opinion, but that's what happened, and the market spoke, and it said that this was only worth $700,000, and needless to say, the seller didn't sell it. The MSRP on this was $590, so it still went over MSRP, but for a supercar, it didn't transact at only 700 grand. I think the person was probably looking for over 8 or better. All right, now we're going to hop into our first Ferrari of the week. This one is a 355 from 1998. So this has the F1 transmission in it. And there was a lot of negative things said about this F1 transmission. I actually had one that was in a 360, and I actually think they're really good transmissions, not as bad as what everybody says. They're definitely more harsh and more, more guttural of how they feel when you're shifting, and I actually like that. This one had some cool upgrades on it with fab speed headers, as well as a Hill Engineering transmission pump upgrade. This car looked really great color combination, and it was well taken care of. I think this thing went for $71,500, and I think that's a fair price, maybe even a little bit of a deal. If they're a manual transmission, they probably go for around $100 or more. So I think somebody got a decent deal on a car that had a little bit of miles on it for a Ferrari. All right, now we're going to hop into one of my favorite AMG Black Series cars. It's an '08 CLK63 AMG Black Series. These are great. It has the standard 6.2 liter V8 in it. that has 500 horsepower. These are fantastic engines. I've had a car that had this engine in it, 500 horsepower. This thing has a ton of cool bodywork on it, as well as the interior is completely done up, has carbon as well as Alcantara everywhere. This thing only has 10,000 miles on it. It didn't sell. This is another non-sale, but the reason why I want to talk about it is it probably should have sold. I think the reserve may have been a little bit high. That's easy for me to say since it wasn't my car, but there was one that had 26,000 miles on it and it sold for about this price, maybe a little bit lower. And interesting note on the 10,000 miles, which is low for this car. 10,000 miles on that Ford GT cost you $500,000. So needless to say, on this, it's a positive. On that, it's like this massive negative. All right, that does it for cars and bids. Now we're going to go to Bring a Trailer and take a look at all those auctions over there, and there's a few good ones. I think Cars and Bids was pretty good this past week. They had nice supercar arrangement as well as some deals and opportunities out there as well. All right, now we're going to get into our first auction on Cars and Bids, and it's this 02 IS300. This is the second year of the IS300 chassis, but it's the first year of the Sportcross. So this Sportcross weren't as rare as a lot of people say, but they were a little bit more rare than the regular car. This is in MSM Millennium Silver Metallic, which was a very common color, and it was the press photo color that they used for it back in the day. I've had 3 IS300s. The comment that I wanted to make on this car is, holy cow, $27,000. You've got to be kidding me. So this has to be the highest sale price on a Sportcross since they were new. This shocked me. It's really high for this car in my opinion, and they're cool cars and they're nearly indestructible, but $27,000, I'm not so sure about that. So nonetheless, that's what it went for. So I say well sold on that one. All right, now we're going to get into one of our headline cars that we talked about. And this is the 89 Lamborghini Countach, 25th anniversary, owned by Rod Stewart. He was the original purchaser of it back when it was new. And there's some cool documentation on this. It's a very low mileage car, 7,300 miles or something like that. And it seems like it was pretty well maintained, and it's still desirable, even though it's the less rare being the 25th anniversary edition. What I found interesting about this car was that it went for $550, and so I actually thought it would go for more than that. Looking at the comparables out there, it basically didn't get a surcharge for celebrity ownership, in my opinion, and so maybe whoever bought that got a little bit of equity just because of that. One cool thing about this car is the quantity of pictures. This thing had over 500 photos, maybe over 600 photos, so the most that I had seen in a long time. All right, now we're going to go into one of our other headline cars, which is this 95 BMW M3 GT. So these are a very unique configuration and a very limited production run of these cars. There was 356 of them made. I wasn't familiar with this version of this car, but it's really cool. All of them came with this paint, as well as, I'll scroll down, as well as the seats in this configuration with this green inserts and all this Alcantara, and it has carbon fiber all over the place on this car. It looks fantastic. It's quite the car. I'll pop up some pictures for you. So this one had about 65,000 miles on it. Is in fantastic shape. I think whoever got this is going to be a very happy owner. These cars haven't really shown up on Bring a Trailer on Cars and Bids, and so this auction result was way out of line of other BMW M3s. And so if I go to the chart on this, this is all E36 M3s, and you'll notice that we have 2 anomalies. One is an IMSA GT race winning car that was bid to 256 and it didn't sell. And then it was this one that sold for 170,000, and nothing else is ever transacted anywhere near there. And so this was a very unique and rare car, and it got 170 grand, and I think it's a well sold, well bought situation. All right, now we're going to look at something that I thought was an opportunity this past week, and That's this Alfa Romeo 4C. So these come up and they usually transact in the 35 to 55 range, depending on mileage and condition and that type of thing. This one sold around 47.5. So I think this is a decent deal if you're looking for a car to have fun in. They're probably not going to go down too much more. I say that and I've been wrong 1,000 times and could be wrong on this one, but they originally sold around $67,000. This is a great car, and it's a more modern version of a Lotus Exige. So it's a small, light, tossable car, tons of fun. You're not going to drive it every day. You're going to drive it when you want to have fun. And so I think this could be a good opportunity if somebody's looking for a fun little sports car out there. All right, now we're going to take a look at another one of our headline cars, and that's this Ferrari Daytona. This is the Berlinetta, so a hard top. It looks amazing. This was a European spec car. It was delivered in Rome, I think, and then it spent all of its time until the 2000s there in Italy, and then it came over to Canada, and they refurbed it in 2012, 2013, and so this car is just in great shape. The inside, the outside, the underside, everything looks pretty much brand new. There's a little bit of wear and tear on it here and there, but for the most part, this thing just looks fantastic and it looks basically new. Can you imagine just taking a tour around Italy in this thing with a bunch of other people and cruising around through the hillsides? All right, now we're going to go to an infamous and notorious car, and so in a good way. And so that's the ex-Paul Newman 88 Volvo 740 wagon. And so this car is so cool. It was completely modified. They had a Buick Grand National turbo engine in it. Then they had a 5-speed on it, some body work on it, sunroof, various other things done to this car. It was a great car. It has a bunch of miles on it for what it is, 76,000 miles. So that's a good thing. You know, it's very reliable, and considering that it's been completely gone through. I'll pop up some pictures for you to show you this thing, and so it's in great shape overall speaking, and you know, somebody bought this for $81,000. I think that that's a high amount to pay for it, but if it's going into a collection and this person's going to restore it and make it like brand new again, that'd be awesome. And so it'd just be a piece of history with Paul Newman's name on it. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. All right, that does it for the auctions this week. Now let's go into a little bit of the trends and then we'll wrap it up. Not too much has changed from last week. I saw a few more auctions end with reserve not met. But aside from that, I think that everything is pretty much status quo. You're still getting top dollar if you're selling or buying cars that are collectible or that are very desirable moving into the summer. There are deals out there like the 4C, some older Mercedes, as well as that 3 to 7 year old used car from just a regular daily driver car. There's some deals out there in those as well. But overall, things have pretty much stabilized, even though we've had some, you know, chaos in the market with the banking situation and that type of thing. All right, that does it for this week. If there's auctions coming up that you're interested in or that you think may be entertaining, please mention those in the comments below, and that way we can all kind of keep track of those. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. Please think about subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you out there in the next one.